really looking forward to speaking with you because I found out that the WHO, the World Health Organization, has this department that you have been at the helm, which is health and the arts.
Yeah,
Tell,
I wouldn't call it a department. It's a more of a program, a project.
oh, I see. Well,
We have we
it's
haven't become.
a department.
Yeah, department is a rather big affair. Uh, this is a new venture. I mean, new for WHO. It's been around for about 2 years now.
Oh, I see. Yeah, so it's pretty recent indeed. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, so tell us a little bit how it came to be. Who were the good souls that realized the importance of the arts for health?
Well, it really was Dr. Tedros. When he was elected Director General, he put out this famous call to staff for crazy ideas, and staff responded. Lots and lots of really creative ideas were presented to him, and he gave the green light to many of them. And my crazy idea was to start this arts and health program. And he gave me my 15 minutes to make my elevator pitch to him. And it was really quite simple. I said, we know that data, evidence, and information are essential for problem solving, for identifying objective scientific truth, for saving lives. But we also know from the evidence that data, evidence, and information by themselves are often insufficient to get people to change their minds or behavior. To do that, you need empathy, often in the form of a narrative. And he agreed. And that was the beginning of the program.
Excellent. So you've been active in Africa. I've seen that you had some programs that were already rolled out there.
Well, yes, but I think it's also fair to say that the connection between arts and health has, at the community level, has been practiced by Africans since time immemorial. That in many respects, we have more to learn from them than they have from us, to be honest.
Indeed, indeed, yes. I grew up in Brazil, so
Yeah.
we have a very strong African American culture there. So yes, indeed, the arts is something, and healing, the healing arts, as you know, the candomblé and all the Afro religions, it's a combination which I always was very attracted to because it's the art of it, right? It's the symbolism and the dances, because when the saints come down to earth to speak to us mortals, they dance. They come through a medium and they dance, and they're healing people through that dance. So,
Yeah, and I was what's important from a WHO perspective is that it's not like WHO has gone crazy and rejected scientific method and is embracing sympathetic magic. No, we're not
no,
doing that.
absolutely not. I'm
But
sure you can
we do
measure that
believe
in a lot.
that when practicing the performances, these narratives, the song, these arts, that literally there are measurable changes in cortisol levels, in being able to frame what is happening that may not actually cure the condition, but can help with your own personal healing and well-being. And put you into a frame where you have a better chance at warding off the disease. But even if you can't, to make that journey, whatever it ends up being, personally meaningful in whatever way. I mean, just as an example, a few years ago, I was diagnosed with cancer, and I was at that time given a 50% chance of surviving the year. At that time, I started practicing my own art, which was the theater and all that. And I can't say that involving the arts will cure cancer. It won't. There's a difference between curing and healing. But
Right.
what I can say is that it put me into a more positive frame of mind. It allowed me to have the medications perhaps arguably to have a better effect. But even leaving that aside, it it comforted me. It allowed me to find purpose and meaning in a very, very difficult time of my life. And that has a huge healing value.
Absolutely, yes. And this is measurable in labs, actually. As you said, the levels of
Yeah,
cortisol, it's part of palliative care, right? In terms of, managing the symptoms, in the case of chronic diseases too. It's a certain frame of mind. We know very well now this interaction between body and mind has been
that's right.
clearly established by traditional Western medicine as well. So we know that this have an impact in your well-being, in how you manage the diseases, right? So it makes
So when we
sense
talk about
that
when we talk,
WHO is giving more attention to that, actually.
that's right. Yeah. And when we talk about the use of the arts in whether it's palliative care or just rehabilitation or any other aspect, we're not saying it replaces other disciplines. It doesn't replace medicine. It doesn't replace physical therapy. It doesn't replace psychological support. But it may enhance it. When we talk about the healing power of the arts, it's not a zero-sum equation. We're not saying, oh, the arts can replace medicine. Oh, the arts can replace physical therapy. Oh, the arts can replace psychological support. No, we're not saying any of that. What we are saying is that the arts can augment all of those things and and brings its own value to the table that's complementary. So, for instance, there was a study that was done, and it's part of our WHO report on the evidence base for the health benefits of the arts that came out in 2019, where patients who were undergoing physical rehabilitation for a variety of reasons, it could be an accident, it could be a medical procedure, were divided into two groups. One group had their physical therapy where they had to repeat certain movements a set number of times over a given period. And then the other group did the exact same movements, but to music, and it turned into a dance. So the patients undergoing physical therapy to music not only had a quicker recovery time, they had a more pleasant experience of it. They didn't report as much discomfort. They found the joy in it. And to me, that's a perfect example. Or in our society, we tend to think about things in sort of zero-sum equations, where something is either the silver bullet that's supposed to heal everything, or it's no good. It's fake, and we fall into this black and white thinking increasingly, I think, because of social media and the way we discuss things. And I think, particularly in the area of arts and health, it's not so black and white. I think what we can say is that the use of the arts in a health context can be very positive, but we are not saying it is a cure-all, that it will replace other things. It augments them, and I think that's and it helps. Frankly, it helps people find that present moment to reconnect to themselves, to their environment, to the people around them, and particularly in times of misfortune, medical or otherwise, to bring meaning, your own personal authentic meaning to what's happening, and that can help you recover. Or if you don't recover, it can help give solace and some form of meaning and closure to those misfortunes.
Yes, indeed, indeed. And also, we have this cultural context is very important, right? If you were born in a region of Africa, you might, if you're experiencing psychological distress because you've been displaced or because you had to immigrate because conflict in your country of origin, um, they may recommend you to go see a psychotherapist. But the psychotherapy techniques we have, methods, are developed in the West, so maybe they don't resonate with this person who grew up in a culture where his grandmother would come and make a tea, or would know about certain medicinal herbs that would help lift one's mood, or there were dances in the community that would help people extrapolate the problems or understand themselves, or just get out of the way of the thinking or on the problems. So psychotherapy, or psychiatry, even more so, doesn't is a one size isn't a one size fits all. There are certain cultures that wouldn't make any sense because the whole premises are based on a cultural context, which these people don't have any relation to.
Well, I think what you're saying,
Foucault as well. Michael Foucault, Michel Foucault also spoke at length about these issues, right?
yeah, yeah. And I think what you're saying certainly resonates with what I'm hearing from different cultures around the world. I had a town hall meeting a number of weeks ago with artists in the Navajo Nation in the US, indigenous peoples there. And we were talking about the effects of the pandemic on the Navajo people. And I asked very specifically, is there any psychosocial support, in the health system? Are you getting the mental health support that you need? And they kind of laughed. And the first answer was, well, the health system in general is quite weak, let alone for mental health. But then one of them said exactly the point that you're making. He said, well, the problem with Western psychology techniques is that it's often based on the talk therapy. And it's also based on going back into your own personal experience. Whereas for many people, and they felt the Navajo people this was true of, they don't define themselves solely as individuals, but as a community. And so to have a method that burrows deep into your personal past is less resonant for them than a technique that involves the whole community in exploring a truth for that community. And and I said, so you find that the arts do that? And he said, well, we found that for millennia.
Right,
so,
right. They
so,
don't
so
say explicitly,
again,
maybe, but that's part of their lives, right? Like every
exactly,
week
exactly.
they will have some sort of gathering where the whole community is involved, right?
Yeah, exactly. And this is where again, I think it's rather arrogant for us to go to these communities and say, "Oh, we have this idea." No, 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 no.
Here, have
They
some
know.
dinner. How about some Freud? And
That's
it's
right.
like maybe these things work for us Westerns, right? People who grew up in a culture that's maybe similar, where
Or or
to,
or or
and
could or
the
could be
Jewish and
helpful.
Christian traditions have been so strong, shaping these
Yeah,
forms of therapy that it resonates, right? If you grew up in this context.
yeah. And uh, and those other techniques could be helpful in this context too. I'm not saying they wouldn't be. All I'm saying is that part of the joy and effectiveness of working through the arts is that it actually involves deep listening and deep observation,
Mm.
and allowing whoever you're working with in that community to give them the tools to tell their own story in the way that's most meaningful to them. That's what the arts do. And it's not imposing a solution or imposing a behavior or imposing a path on them. It's letting them find that path that is authentic to them. And to me, it all boils back to my favorite quote from Carl Jung, the Swiss psychologist, who said, loneliness is not the absence of people. Loneliness is the inability to express what matters to you most. And I think those words are particularly resonant during this pandemic that we've all lived through in the last year and a half, because the isolation has been hard for people, but it's more than just being isolated from humans. It's being isolated from being able to express what matters to you, what you care about. And too often when we come in with a solution to a community, we're also imposing a worldview, we're imposing a point of view, we're imposing an outcome that we think they should have. And that can create a terrible spiritual loneliness in the people of not really being heard. So to take another approach where we actually come in and we listen and we let them tell their story in the way that they want to tell it, that's a very different dynamic. And I think it's a liberating one and a healing one.
Thank you very much. Christopher Bailey from the World Health Organization, from the Arts and Health program.